Through a balance of the results we seek and the assets that produce these results.
Now let's define what we mean by effectiveness. We've just defined basic habits. What do we mean by effectiveness? It's a most interesting term. I'd like to give a very simple definition. I call it the P-PC balance. The P-PC balance. P stands for production of desired results. PC stands for production capability. To quickly illustrate, you'd like to have a clean house. You'd like your children's rooms to be clean, wouldn't you? That's the desired results. That's P, production of desired results. PC means that your child is committed to keep that room clean, cheerfully, without being reminded, bugged, supervised, cajoled, manipulated, threatened, beat up, carrot and sticked. That's PC. Now you can get a clean room by doing it yourself. Well, what's happened to PC? What's happened to the asset, the person, the resource to clean the room? What's happened to that person's motivation, desire, habit patterns, skill, knowledge, and attitude combined into a habit? That's PC. That's production capability. So I suggest effectiveness is to get the clean room and to have the kind of relationship, atmosphere in the home where people want to do their own jobs on their own, cheerfully. I'm sure all of us have studied Aesop. Sometime in our life have heard his fables. The one that I like using in teaching the PPC balance is the one about this very poor farmer who's really down on his luck, down in his spirit, and totally impoverished. He comes across his favorite goose, and to the side of it is a brilliant, glistening gold egg. He's thrilled, but then he realizes instantly, someone's tricked me, it's bogus, so he throws it into the bushes. Then on second thought, he says, well, what have I got to lose? And he tests it. He finds out it's pure gold. He can't believe this. This windfall fortune. The next day, he finds another one and tests it. Again, pure gold. The next day, the same thing. On and on. Every day he goes back. Soon he becomes so fabulously wealthy, he becomes also impatient. He didn't want to go back every day. He wants them all, and he wants them now. Out of his greediness, he lops off the head of that goose, reaches inside to get them all, only to find none. In all organizations, there's basically three resources or three assets. The physical, the financial, and the human. That's obviously true in a business, but it's also true in a family. How many here have ever had the experience of neglecting an appliance and found that it only lasted one season? Like a lawnmower. How many have neglected the car? Proper maintenance, proper feeding and caring for the goose, if you see what I mean, and found that the golden eggs started to go down. In fact, think about this. You're in business. You've been in charge of this machine. Tremendous growth taking place in the business and a lot of upward mobility. You'd like to get promotions too, so you want to make a tremendous record. Short-term record. You don't care about the long term. What would you do?
Run as hard and fast as you could.
Right. Run it hard and fast as you could. No PC, right? No feeding the goose. No taking care of the goose, because you just want to just crank out those products. And you do. And you make a terrific showing. Your production goes higher and higher. Your costs are low because there's no maintenance. You have really moved from red ink to black ink. You've moved into profitability. So we promote you to the upper executive ranks so we can get access to your skill and talent and thinking. The next new person comes on board. By this time, because of a lack of PC, because of a lack of feeding and tending the goose, the machine begins to break down. This floor person looks inside and notices. Calls for downtime. Costs go up. Production goes down. Profits shot back into red ink. Now, what do people say to you, the first supervisor of the machine, in the executive corridors the next day about your successor? What do they say? He's a loser. I have never seen such a clear case of how leadership can make a difference. As soon as you left, it went down. What if I were a coach and I really wanted to produce an outstanding team, short run? I'd give all my energies to my present players, no recruiting, and I put on a fantastic show. And I am lauded and applauded all over the place. And I leave. The next coach comes in the legacy that I had just left. No one knows that. All they know is we've moved into constant losses. You can apply this thinking to any field of endeavor you wish. For instance, take your finances. Have you ever confused interest and principal? Have you ever invaded the principal in order to live better? Used it as income, start to eat away at the goose in order to live higher on the hog, to have the things you want? Is that effective? Eventually, the goose dies. There's no more golden eggs. Or take your marriage. Do you and I make constant deposits into that relationship, the most important relationship probably we will have in life, along with our children. Sometimes I call this the emotional bank account. The emotional bank account is like a financial bank account into which you make deposits and you can take withdrawals. And if you make many deposits into that relationship, the trust level goes higher and higher. And the nature of the communication becomes very soft and gentle and instantaneous. How many have such a high emotional bank account with someone you can communicate with them almost without words? How many can even make mistakes in your communication and they'll correct for the mistakes and get the meaning? It happens. We all have that kind of a relationship with people. It doesn't take time to communicate. It takes time to build the emotional bank account, to build the trust level. When the trust level is high, when the emotional bank account is high, communication is easy, it's effortless, it's instantaneous, and it's effective. If the trust level is low, it makes no difference how eloquent we may be, how clear we may be, how skilled we are in communication technique. People will be reading between the lines. It's like walking into a minefield. You never know when one of those things might be hit and go off. The essence of relationships is the trust level, the emotional bank account. That's PC on relationships. That's the goose, the quality of the relationship in business, the quality of the relationship with the customer. How does the customer perceive your business, perceive your products and your services? Is there a high degree of trust toward the integrity of your advertising, of your claims? Do you come through again and again and again to where there's an extremely high emotional bank account and the customer almost pulls through the channels, the products, you don't have to push it all, to a position where we could call customer insistence? In this very community, I remember many years ago, a restaurant that served a fantastic clam chowder. You could hardly get near the place in the middle of the day because people would line up to get the clam chowder and would even take some home for the evening. They'd reheat it. Great business. No one knew what was happening, but that business was sold. New owners came in an effort to improve the profitability, in an effort to get more golden eggs. They watered down the clam chowder. What do you think happened to profits for a month or two? Of course, they zoomed. They went up. Why? Because you cut cost. And market insistence, market preference was still there. But little by little, the goose was getting sick. People's expectations were not being met, and the emotional bank account started to go down because of these withdrawals, until a position was reached where the place was almost emptied out. They tried to recover, but by that time they had violated the integrity perception of their customers. No one knew what had happened inside, but everyone knew what had happened to them. So also in a business, we can be on people's backs to treat the customer well, but how do we treat that person? The key is to always treat the employee exactly as we would want them to treat our best customer. What if that were the paradigm? You treat a customer like a volunteer because that's what a customer is. You treat an employee, an associate, like a volunteer because they have to volunteer their best thinking, their best loyalty, enthusiasm. You can buy a person's back, but not their mind. You can buy a person's hand, but not their heart. That kind of dedication, commitment, and loyalty must be earned by taking care of the goose, rather than taking the short view of constantly letting the bottom line of the number of golden eggs govern all decisions, all behavior. You see how anti-quick fix this is? You see how long-term thinking this approach is? This is the essence of effectiveness. I'll tell you a very fast way to tell whether a business has a good PPC balance. How do they deal with customer problems? If the customer's problem is out of standard operating procedure and it kind of throws the business and you get an answer like, "I'm sorry, sir, that's our policy," you'll know it's out of whack. What is a problem? A production problem, a P problem, is a PC opportunity. If you want to start making big deposits into customers, treat their problems as being important and try to solve them. It's a PC opportunity, and out of it will come many future golden eggs. You'd like people of different departments to cease this contention, this wrangling, this interdepartmental rivalry, and to cooperate with each other, to understand each other's concern and paradigm, and to learn to creatively cooperate. Now, you might take a strong hand and go for the desired result, threaten, change some compensation system to get some desired result, but the basic spirit of those people has not changed. The PC, the production capability, has not been altered. It requires your constant attention to it. How do you create a culture inside that organization that values both the desired result and the preservation and enhancement of the assets that produce it, the people, the resources. How do you do that? You see, so many organizations are filled with interdepartmental rivalries. In fact, one of the shocking experiences I've had in my consulting and training work over the years is to realize a high percentage of the problems begin with the people at the very top, the nature of the relationship they have with each other. Often, if deteriorated, gets translated throughout the entire organization. Like osmosis, it's diffused everywhere. Dag Hammarskjöld, the late Secretary General of the United Nations, made this brilliant statement. It is more noble to give yourself completely to one individual than to labor diligently for the salvation of the masses. You see, a person could be very actively involved with many people, many worthy projects out there, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week, and not have a meaningful relationship with his own spouse, with his own business partner, with this teenage son who's going through terrific turmoil. And it will take more nobility of character in the form of humility, courage, empathy, respect, understanding, to do whatever's necessary to rebuild that one relationship. But the ironic thing is, it is in the rebuilding of the one that the power to deal with the many comes from. The key to the 99 is always the one, because everybody is a one. For instance, if you should see me, say, punishing somebody in a social way that you felt was totally unjustified, how do you know I won't do that to you? You're a one. The key to your family is that one child that tests your patience the most. That communicates eloquently the unconditional or the conditional character of your love. What if we could say to our loved ones, my love for you is greater than anything you do that bugs me, and live it on a one-to-one basis. I have a habit of taking my kids on dates, and we plan these dates. We find that the anticipation of the date is as satisfying as the realization. So we think about it for a long period of time. I came to one of my daughters and said, honey, tonight's your night. What is your choice? What would you like to do? Well, Dad, that's okay. No, really, what would you like to do? Well, what I want to do, you really don't want to do. Well, really, honey, I want to do it. No matter what it is, it's yours. No, I know you don't. I know you don't want to do it. I want to go to Star Wars, and I know how much you don't like Star Wars. You slept during Star Wars. You don't like these fantasy-type movies. I know you don't. So that's okay, Dad. No, honey, if that's what you'd like to do, I'd like to. Dad, you're just trying to do your daddy thing. Don't worry about it. We don't always have to have this date. By the way, Dad, do you know why you don't like Star Wars? Because you don't understand the philosophy and training of a Jedi Knight. I said, what? What was that? You know the stuff you teach, Dad? That's the same things that go into the training of a Jedi Knight. Let's go to Star Wars. And we did. And she sat next to me and gave me the paradigm. And I became her student, her learner. We went to all three. It's totally fascinating. I could begin to see out of a new paradigm the whole way that a Jedi Knight's basic philosophy and training is manifested in different circumstances. That was not just a P experience, it was a PC experience. It was bonding in our relationship and very satisfying in its fruit. We got golden eggs, and also the quality of the relationship, the goose, was significantly fed.